So, wanted to start to discuss a little bit of another concept in credit, which some of you have asked about in the last Q&A. I haven't addressed this yet, but let's talk about it now. We want to talk a little bit about your credit history. But first, let me back up to something that maybe you have a little bit more experience with, is maybe your academic history. If you are applying to a college and a college wants to get a sense of your entire academic history in high school, right? They want to see what classes you took. They want to see what grades you got. They want to see test scores. You could provide them with that academic history. And the way you would do that is you would send them a transcript. Right? So here's what a Sandeman Prep transcript looks like. And on that transcript, we'll list every course you've ever taken, every grade in those courses you've ever taken, every Regents exam, any of the credits that you've earned. This is a full academic history. I can get a lot of information on this report and see lots of detail about you and your past history with academics. Right? We're familiar with this. By now, most of you have probably requested your transcript for college applications. So I want to talk now a little bit about maybe your financial history. Is there a record of your financial history? And the answer, of course, is yes. There is something called your credit report. Some of you have kind of alluded to this. This is basically your financial transcript. We'd like to take a look at your history of borrowing. Where have you borrowed money from? From whom have you borrowed? How much have you borrowed? How well have you done paying that money back? So we want to get all of the details of your financial history. We can see on there maybe monthly, definitely monthly loans. Any sort of a loan will be on there, whether that's a open-ended loan or a closed-ended loan will totally be there. If there are other bills or other things that you owe money to people for, good, bad, or otherwise, they will probably show up on your credit report. Okay. On Classroom, with this video, I will post some sample credit reports so you can actually open them and look at them and see exactly like what the format would look like and the types of information you can find. All right. Lots and lots of companies will use your credit report when they are trying to make a lending decision. Should we lend them money? Definitely if you sign up for another credit card, they will most likely want to look at your credit report. If you try to go and finance a car, if you want to take out a loan to pay for your car, they will most likely run your credit report. College loans could do that. Insurance companies will look at your credit report when you're trying to open up an insurance policy with them. Maybe it's car insurance or home insurance. They will want to look at your credit report. Sometimes prospective employers will try to run your credit report. I distinctly remember on my first job that they did run a credit check on me just to get a sense if there's anything they need to know about before they hire you. Landlords sometimes might run or ask for a copy of your credit report before they will agree to take you on as a tenant. We're going to talk about why all these people want your credit report in a little bit. But all of these people are not only allowed to see your credit report, but they will most likely want to see your credit report, and they'll ask you to provide a copy one. So really the question is, what is in a credit report? What information can they get access to? First, there's a section at the top of the report really just has all your identifying information in it. Name, addresses, previous addresses you've lived, your social security number, date of birth, etc. Nothing that exciting going on there. Next, they will very clearly show you, in the credit section, they will show you each line of credit that has been extended to you. So first you will see, here are my 2 credit cards, and here's my car loan and my student loan and my mortgage. You will see every time you've borrowed money from someone, it will show up there as a line item. For each one of those lines of credit, it will show you what is the current outstanding debt. So you borrowed $20,000 for your car loan. How much of that is currently outstanding? I've paid back $5,000. I still owe them $15,000. That will show up there. So we can see not only each line of credit you've been extended, but then how are you been doing paying that back. Some of the credit reports will show you for a length of time, will show you every single month and will show you the payments you've made. Have you paid them on time? Have you missed payments? Have you bounced checks? All of the nitty-gritty payment detail history for each line of credit will be shown there. So that there's a lot of information in that section. I'm going to ask you again to look at the sample credit reports that I've posted on Classroom for you. That's a bulk of the credit report. Really super important. Next is something called the public record. Have you ever been taken to court because of a financial matter? Right? Has any legal action been taken against you for unpaid debt? We'll talk about here in a second. Bankruptcy. Have you ever filed bankruptcy? Have you ever not paid a bill so far gone as to have your bill sent to a collections agency? These are all issues that will be put on the public record and will show up there. And then finally, on the end of the report, there's a section there called the inquiries section. Who has looked into your credit record recently? Right? So the landlord that you tried to get an apartment with, it will show that they tried to look at your credit report on this date. The car loan you tried to take out, the 4 credit cards you tried to sign up for, they will all show up who has looked into your credit report recently. So if I'm looking at a credit report, why would I want to see all this stuff, right? I definitely want to see your credit history. I want to see first, how much credit have you used? How much credit are you borrowing? How much money in total are you borrowing right now? What types of loans are they? Do you have 7 credit cards? Do you have 3 mortgages? Do you have, I've bought 4 new cars in the last 6 years and I've paid all of them with loans. So I want to get a sense of where you are. I definitely would like to see the total amount of debt you currently have outstanding. That's a big one. And I'm very interested, quite honestly, in your history. I want to see how you've done paying back all these loans. Right? The public record I definitely would like to see. Hey, you have had 6 bills sent to collections. What does that say about you? The inquiries one, I like to know, a lot of times these will come through because you've been asking for credit. So I'd like to know, how many times have you gone and looked to another company to ask you to borrow money, or you've had 5 jobs in the last 2 years. You've moved 6 times, right? These are all things that could be indicators that something's going on here, right? Good, bad, or otherwise. Do I want to do business with this person? So this is a lot of really great information that your employers, that your other people, lenders, could look at to try to get a sense of, where do you stand in your financial history? The same way that if I wanted to get a sense of how are you as a student, right? Your colleges want to see how are you as a student, so they ask for a transcript, and they want to see a larger, complete academic history of you. Well, here's the financial transcript. Okay. Credit reports can contain information that is up to 7 years old. This is a big one too. Financial decisions you make today, right? Your first loan, your first credit card. Let's say you get your first credit card at 21. The mistakes you made when you were 21 and a half years old could stick with you until you're 28 years old. All right. So your credit history, they typically work in these 7-year windows, but mistakes you make or problems you may encounter can follow you for a pretty significant amount of time. After 7 years, that information is typically just not included on the report anymore. So quite honestly, for me, if I did something dopey with my credit card when I first graduated from college, no one's going to see that anymore, because it's been much more than 7 years since I graduated college. So right? So you do have to kind of work within this. That's why some of these financial decisions we make are going to follow you for a while. The other one that's out there that's more than 7 years stays there for 10 years, and this is bankruptcy. Um, some of you may have heard this before or seen what is bankruptcy. The short answer for bankruptcy is basically you are going to legally declare that you cannot repay your debts. Right? So this is not this is an actual legal declaration. You're probably going to work with a bank. You're probably going to work with a lawyer to be able to legally declare bankruptcy. I'm out of money. I cannot pay my bills. Right? There's a couple of different types of bankruptcy we're not really going to get into here, but sometimes bankruptcy is I don't have cash anymore. I'm out of cash. I don't make enough money, and I need to be able to pay my bills. Sometimes bankruptcy is declared to try to, say, restructure your debt. I want to be able to come up with some new creative ways for me to be able to pay. I owe $10,000 to my bank for the car loan. Or for the student loans. I'm not going to be able to pay all of that because I'm just in a bad financial situation. So we're basically going to kind of renegotiate the whole deal. Bankruptcy is one of the more serious financial situations you can be in. You have stood in a court of law and said, I can't pay my bills. I'm not a good borrower. So that information is so important that it's going to stay on your credit report for upwards of 10 years. Some people, bankruptcy can be a tool, really a life preserver, to be able to help them get out of a pretty serious financial situation. Bankruptcy is really the last resort. We can do a lot of things to try to help you out. We can work with your creditors. We can work with your bank to maybe help make things better if you fall into trouble. But bankruptcy is really the last part of this. It's the last straw that you can get into. Right? So because it's that important, bankruptcy will show up on your credit report for 10 years. If at any point in time you've declared bankruptcy and I see that on your credit report, what makes you think I'm going to lend you more money? Because a couple of years ago, you said legally, I can't pay it back. Right? So it's a pretty serious deal. Who's allowed to see your credit report? Not everyone. I can't try to dial up my neighbor's credit report. But there are certain groups who can request a copy of your report. We've talked about some of this already. Creditors, anyone who's going to lend you money. Insurance companies can do that. Employers can do that. Some government agencies can do that. And most importantly, you are allowed to see your credit report, right? That would be like us not giving you a copy of your report card, right? You're doing all this work, all this academic progress, and I'm not going to let you see the results. That's weird. All right, so you do have the ability to see your credit report. Where can I get my credit report? There are three agencies that deal with credit reports. They're called credit bureaus. Credit bureaus. They collect all this information about you and your financial history, and they're the ones that compile the credit reports. There are three of them in the United States, three reputable ones: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Those are your three major credit bureaus. And you have their websites there on the screen. You can also go to annualcreditreport.com and you can request, you're legally allowed to request your credit report for free annually. You're allowed to see the full credit report annually. These websites and these companies also offer other services. If you want to have more regular access to your credit history and your credit information, they can provide you those services at a subscription, at a fee. If you wanted to get your credit report very, very regularly, you wind up paying for it more than just once a year. But I would strongly, strongly recommend, and I'll say it again in a couple of minutes, but I strongly recommend that once a year you take a look at your credit report so you can get a sense of where you are. If there's anything that shows up in your credit report that needs to be discussed or looked at, all right, we'll come back and talk about this in a little while. Okay, so Credit reports. I am going to encourage you to please take a look at the sample credit reports. I think I have two that I will put on Classroom for you. I want you to take a look at those and review them. Just get a sense of what's in them and what types of information are there. But just know that the credit report is important. This is going to show really the complete and full credit history. Well, at least for the last 7 years. Well, you're pretty full credit history, and give people a sense of how you doing. Before I lend you money, I'd like to maybe look into your background a little bit. I'd like to look at your history to get a sense of where you are before I trust you with my money.